welcome back to our channel. We are James and Kelly, and we are converting our Ram ProMaster so that we can travel to South America with our 2 cats.
In today's episode, we are doing our plumbing. A winter storm has hit the Midwest and we got 10 inches of snow, but we did not let that stop us from getting our plumbing done.
Let's get to work. We are finally ready to tackle our plumbing in our van. We are camped outside of Menards parking lot right now because we think we have all the parts that we need, but just in case we come up to a fixing that we don't have and we need it, we can just run into the store and grab it. I've already gone through and designed our freshwater tank and gray water tank diagram. So you can click the link in the description for more on our setup that we're going for. This is everything that we have gotten so far for our freshwater system in our van conversion. We might be buying more things, but I think we got everything. So starting off with the fill, we have our fill attachment along with a clamp and our fill hose. For the pressure release, we have our pressure release end cap and our braided vinyl tubing. Then have our PEX tubing, blue for cold, red for hot. We have our water level sensor gauge and our water level. We then have our silencer, accumulator, on-off valves, pump, the strainer for our water pump, a PEX cutter, a PEX crimp, some 90-degree attachments. We have our 1/2-inch PEX clamps and a box full of PEX coupling fittings where we have elbows, T's, and everything that we will need to attach everything, and then some PVC tape. Hopefully we got everything.
You look like such an old lady.
We brought in our lawn chair so we can sit down and work on our plumbing a little bit more comfortable. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to be cutting in the holes for our fill and water level. You can use a hole saw, but we are trying not to get plastic into our water tank because it's freezing outside, and that would require us to put water into our tank and then empty it, and it's too cold for that. So we're going with attempting to use a box cutter, and it's our only option because we didn't bring any of our hole saws. So
Spending the day in Menards.
won't put it through. Okay.
And look at that minimal shavings. With the holes cut out, we're now going to install the fill port. We're using a 1/2-inch male threaded into a 1/4-inch barb, which will then attach to our fill hose that we have here. We have decided to put our fill port in the inside of our van. We thought about cutting out a hole on the side and putting in like a city fill and a gravity fill on the side there, but we really don't want to be cutting more holes on the side of our van into the metal. I just think that'll cause more problems down the road. And knowing that we're just going to be having a gravity fill, I thought it would just be easier if we just could open the back doors, fill up our water tank, close the back doors, and we're done. Do not like working with Teflon tape. Yeah. I think just hand tight should do it. This tubing will attach to the barb on the end. We're not going to attach it right now. We plan on cutting this down to the exact size that we need it. But when we put it on, we'll just attach it to the barb end like that, and then use a clamp to clamp it on to make sure it's watertight. For our water level, we are using this KUS water level, and we also bought this gauge reader so we can know how much water we have. This is a 21-inch one, which works perfectly for this tank. As you can see, there'll be about an inch of space before it hits the bottom, which is normally it's normally recommended to have a short amount of space between the level and the bottom of the tank. and it can just fit in here. All right, so I have it in place, and I'm using a 5/32 bit to drill the holes. We watched an installation video, and they said to drill the first hole and put in a screw to hold it, and then drill all the other holes. That way you get every spot in the correct spot, because there's not a lot of space for error when you're installing this. Whoa. The next thing we're putting on this side of the tank is our pressure release port. We're using a 1/2 inch male thread to a 1/2 inch barb, which we're then attaching to a braided vinyl tubing, which will then go down this corner of the van and end with this end cap. The purpose of this is to make sure the tank can release pressure when it's filling or using water, so air can go in and out of it as it's needed, so the tank doesn't explode. A little bit more difficult to do. When you put the Teflon tape on, you want to work clockwise with the threads pointing up from the bottom to the top. That way when you tighten it on, it tightens the tape as you put it on. So now this is in kind of an awkward spot. It's right in our corner where I've put in a support for our bed. We've now moved to our supply side of our tank, which is on the inner side of it. And we're going to start with a 90-degree angle 1/2 inch to barb attachment that'll attach to our vinyl tubing. So it just goes in after you put the vinyl tape on. Kind of have to get it at the correct spot.
We are using vinyl braided tubing to go up from the bottom of our water tank to the very top. That is going to attach to our strainer that goes into our silencer.
All the way down.
A little bit easier. From here we attach our strainer. The strainer comes with the pump that we purchased, and it strains out any debris that could be in our water tank before it reaches our water pump, so it doesn't damage the water pump. We're going to use the piece that they gave us, and once again use another clamp. From the strainer I am installing the silencer. The silencer is to help lower the noise that is going into the pump. Not sure how it works because it just looks like a vinyl tubing, but it helps quiet the noise from the pump. The silencer does need to loop before it reaches the water pump. So we'll have it looping right here, and then it is going to now attach to our water pump. We also will have to put all the electrics to the water pump, but that's going to come later after we get everything set up. With this connected, we now move to the second part of the silencer. That will take us to our accumulator. The accumulator attaches to our silencer. The accumulator helps the pump pressurize the water, so the pump's not doing all of the work. The accumulator kind of helps balance that out. From our accumulator, we move to PEX fittings. So we are going to stop using our vinyl braided tubing for this part, and we're going to move to good old PEX pipes. We're actually going to stop putting our plumbing together right now because we do know that we have all of the fittings that we need, which is why we are camped outside of Menards. James is going to need to build out a support that goes around our water tank that our pump, accumulator, and water filter can all attach to. So we're going to pick back up after we have that box built. We're back to working on our plumbing. James has built this beautiful cabinet shelf that we're going to be using for all of our plumbing stuff. We've pre-drilled some of our holes that we're going to need for our intake and the air vent and a couple other little things. Before we put in the shelf that we made, we are going to go ahead and pre-wire our water level gauge. We want to be able to have a gauge closer to where we are living so we know where our water level is, so we don't run out and don't overuse. And then we're going to put like a little hole, peephole visual on the outside, so when we are filling up our tank from the outside, we're going to be able to visually see how full the tank is. We have finished setting up our pre-wire for our water level gauge. We did have to add in 2 more 12 gauge wires to our main wire that goes to our fuse panel. The reason why we need this is because the water level itself needs 2 separate wires, one to go to the main line and one that goes to the water level gauge. If you want to see a better video on how to set this up, we're going to leave a link in the description to the one that we watched that really helped us figure out how the wiring works. Now with this pre-wired, we're going to put our shelf on top of our water tank and start setting up our plumbing. I am working on the fitting for our drainage pipe. So we are wanting to make sure we have access to drain our water tank in case we ever need to clean it or store it for a long period of time. We have bought a fitting that goes into the water tank and it comes out for PEX tubing. The fitting that we bought is just a push and plug fitting, so we just have to attach this plug into the PEX. That's good.
Yeah.
And I just push it into the drainage hole. Alright.
It does lock.
There we go. I think that's in. Oh, that's in. I think it's a long way. We are trying to work on our plumbing while the Midwest is having a major winter storm right now. It is right at the beginning and it's starting to sprinkle and it's below freezing out. Luckily, our heater we installed way early on in our build, so that way we can keep it warm in here. But it's freezing and we're just really trying to get as much done as we can despite the weather. Put your gloves on. Oh, the lights are really bad.
We finished everything we need to do for the PEX tubing down for our drain, and it is far too cold outside for us to keep the door open and continue working. So we're going to go ahead and not finish the vinyl or flexible tubing side of that, and we'll just finish that later. And we're going to start working on our inner plumbing. First thing we need to do is line up where everything goes inside our box and then start attaching it inside the box. Sorry. There you go.
The water pump is also an electrical component. So we have our water pump power that goes to our fuse box, and we have the water pump switch that we can control on and off above our sliding door, which is where our control panel is. Oh, man. It is so deep. Well, we are in the middle of a blizzard right now in Kansas. And as you can see, it's a blanket of snow outside with a nice thick layer of ice underneath it. But we're still going to be working on our plumbing, because luckily we don't have to go outside to do any of it because we have all of our supplies in the van. Where we left off yesterday was with our water pump. We just wired it up so it is connected to the water switch and the fuse panel. Now we're going to secure it into the box and move on to working with the accumulator. The next part of our water system is going to be our water filtration system. We bought a 3-stage water filter from Blue Technology, so that way we always have clean drinking water inside of our van. We are going to be placing our water filter on our bed support post, And we will need to have room to be able to take out the filters when we need to replace them. So this is going to be removable, and when we need to replace them, we'll turn it on its side and we can unscrew the filters this way. When we are installing our water filter, we are also making sure that we have access to these bolts so that if we ever need to clean out our water tank or take it out, we will have access to do so. This is the hardest part. Now moving on from our water filtration system, we are going to start taking our PEX piping and taking it to all of the things that we need water to. So we'll be taking PEX piping to our sink, our outdoor shower, and to our hot water heater. We've started our lines for the cold water. So we first start off with a T that allows us to bring it down to shoot off into cold water that goes to our sink, and our hot water line that's going to go to the hot water heater. We then bring it out to an L and then down to another L, which will shoot out of the box, and it'll go to our outdoor shower that we plan to install later once we can go outside and actually work outside the van. Because right now we have about 6 inches of snow?
Oh, 8.
We're probably about at 8 inches of snow. Take a little peek. You can't even see our footprints anymore.
Yeah, it might be a little bit more than 8 now.
Holy cow! That is so much. It's been a long time since we've gotten this much snow in Kansas. But, alright, back to plumbing. So now we have our cold water line going out to our outdoor shower. We're going to move into our hot and cold lines. We now have our cold line running all the way to where our sink will go. We're going to wait to be installing our sink until we put in our countertop, so that's going to be in a later video, so make sure you subscribe so you can see our whole van build process. But one thing that we are learning as we're doing this, if you are going to be crimping down your pipes, you try to crimp as much as you can before attaching it to the lines, because in these tight little spaces like that we've created, it is just so difficult to get the crimping tool in its correct spot and have that pressure to clamp it. So pre-prepping is a lot easier than trying to do it when it's in place. We're going to move to the hot line, which is going to be cold, all the way down to where our water heater will go, which is right in this box.
Last piece we're making for today. This is the piping that will go to our water heater that will hook up to our hot water tank before we want to do any more. And also we need to look up the parts that we need to attach our shower back here. And I guess the sink too. We'll just do all of them at one time. We're going to look up those attachment points that we'll need to get, and then we'll come back here, hopefully, I don't know.
Whenever we can drive.
We've got about 10 inches of snow outside right now, and it's still coming down, so maybe in a couple days we'll be able to come out here and finish our plumbing. I'm doing video right now.
Alright, heads in the ground.
9 inch.
so much. So much.
It has been a couple days, but we are back out here in the van. Because of the snow, we haven't been able to go out and get the parts we needed for our water system. But last night we were able to get out and buy some of the fittings that we needed to finish our water system.
Alright, what are we starting with?
Probably the heat PEX. We're going to start with the PEX tubing for the heater.
Or should we start with the water on-off switches?
On-off switches are also a good idea. We're going to start with our shut-off valves that we bought for all of our components. And the first shut-off valve that we're going to put in is the supply line from the tank to the water system shut-off valve. That way we can turn off the entire water system if we ever need to work on something.
We were having a little bit of a hard time figuring out how to do an on-off switch for our supply intake tube, because it is vinyl braided tubing. So with the help of the Menards employees, they helped us get a ball valve on and off switch and a barb fitting that will go into the vinyl braided tubing and then connect to our strainer.
So we didn't think about this, but we probably should have got one with a smaller handle, because this handle is like going all the way to the wood and we kind of like need to pull it a little bit. But that's all right, because all of the tubing around it is the flexible tubing, so it works. Don't have to go get a new one. Now that we have this one set up, we're going to go back to where we finished, which is with our water heater set up.
Alright, so what we've done here is we've added an on-off switch to the cold supply that's going to our water heater. And the reason we are attaching it with a straight piece is because we actually messed up in our very initial planning of this, put it together, and we cannot get these clamps off. So what we've done is just reused it and added a straight piece to connect it all. So that way we don't have to buy more pieces for our plumbing system. It worked out. There we go. So from the end where our on-off switch is, it goes into an L, which we will attach a short PEX piping tube, and then we will put in this fitting that'll go on the end, which turns it into a male threaded adapter. That way we can attach our water heater supply lines to it. The last step will be to attach our faucet hookup. This one we're not going to install just yet, because we're not going to be installing our water heater in this video, because we still need access in this general spot to put all of our wooden things, and we are working on different projects in the van. So that'll be coming in a later video. We're going to be working backwards from the water heater into our plumbing setup for our sink and our outdoor shower. We bought way too much red PEX piping for the two things that we need. At least we know we have enough. We have the initial T that comes from the hot water, and it goes off into two. This side will go up and around our cold supply that goes into the water tank or water heater, and then it shoots out, and we're not going to put anything on this end until we work on our outdoor showers. And then on the other side of the T, it goes out into an L, which is where it meets our hot water PEX pipe that goes to our sink. You can put it here where it belongs. It does fit nicely under our accumulator right there. with our base plumbing system set up, we are calling it a day. And when the weather gets better, we'll get back to working on our plumbing, and we'll see you then. Just one more at the bottom.
Just that bottom one now. We're back outside working on our water system, and today we're going to keep our doors open because we're going to be running some lines to the outside. The snow has cleared enough off of our driveway for us to be able to get under the van without like digging into snow, so that's why we're doing it today, even though it's still really cold outside. How we're running our air pressure release tubing is into this back corner panel. And down here there is a plastic piece that we can take out that'll allow us to funnel the tubing from inside the van to the outside into this plastic part right here. In order to easily access the plastic piece, I went ahead and took off the paneling that's right behind the wheel. That way I can move this paneling. I needed to remove these 3 bolts that were underneath it, so I can see and touch this plastic piece, which you can now see right here.
I need to do the other side.
You need to do the bottom. We are stringing the tube through the metal now, and the best way to do that is to use a conduit. That way the tube doesn't get all scratched up from the metal. That the tube will just kind of come out on its own through this opening, and we'll just insulate more around this corner to stop airflow from coming in. Now we're going to put our end cap onto our air pressure release tube. We bought this little piece off Amazon. The top is a barb which will fit right into the vinyl tubing, and the bottom is meshed so it'll stop any rocks, dirt, or bugs trying to get into our water tank. To put back on our side panel, I had to go and take off all of the plugs that go into each of these holes, which is kind of difficult, and they're very easy to break. What I did is I used 2 screwdrivers to pry them off, and then I reset them into the panel, the orientation that they have to go. You have to pay attention. If they're these holes, you need to set them up and down, and if they're just the circle holes, it doesn't matter which way they go in. And now we will put back on the screws for the bottom. We have pre-fitted up the piping for our hot water and our cold water up to the shutoff valve that we're going to put in. They will go in like this into our cabinet. We have them spaced out so we could fit a mixing valve right in the middle of them. That'll be for our shower. And they'll just run and connect straight into our shower mixing valve.
As we are working on our fittings, it is getting a little bit more difficult to put the connecting points into the PEX piping because it's so cold and the tubing has shrunk a little bit. So we're using our heater to heat up all the pipes so they slide in a little bit easier instead of trying to force them in. Okay. Easy peasy.
With our shutoffs to our sink in place, I'll be able to now attach our mixing valve right on the face of our box right here. I do plan on building a box to go on top of this, That way I can hide all of the piping and I can have a door to put on these shutoff valves. The reason why we want these shutoff valves is so we can make sure that no water will leak out of our shower, or we might accidentally turn it on and we spray water all over our van. We don't want that happening, so we want extra precaution, extra ability to turn off the water to here.
The last thing that we're going to do for our plumbing is to install the fill hookup. We bought this flexible RV fill piping from Amazon, and this will connect our fill hookup to our water tank. Oh, I am not a lefty. Alrighty. Now all that's left is to screw in our fill port, and our base plumbing system is complete.
Go.
Our plumbing is partially done!
Oh,
Hell yes! Hell yeah!
Hell yeah.
We are super, super excited to actually start using our plumbing system. So let me walk through our base plumbing system. So down here we have our 39-gallon freshwater tank that's over the wheel well. And then we have our fill port. So into the fill port, it goes into our freshwater tank. And then it comes out on this side for our supply, and it shoots up into our strainer. From the strainer, it hits the silencer that will allow for the flexibility of the water to be a quieter system. It goes to our water pump, and then it goes to the second part of the silencer, to our accumulator. Then we reach into our PEX piping that goes into our 3-stage water filter so that we can have clean, drinkable water. From the water filter, we go into some break-offs. So we have our first break-off that goes cold water to our outdoor shower that we'll be doing a video later on, so make sure to subscribe to our channel. And then we go down into the cold water that shoots to where our sink will be. And then we have the cold that shoots off to where our hot water tank is going to be. From the hot water tank, we have our hot water lines. We have one line going to our sink and one line going to our outdoor shower. And that's pretty much it for this water system for everything to work. We have some extra pieces that we've added. So down here, mind all these. So down here we have this drain hole, which is to drain out the water tank if we ever need to clean it out. We have it on this little rotator thingy. And then we'll just attach a hose here so we can drain it out the back of our van. And then on the other side of our fill, we have our air pressure release tube. This is so when we are putting water into our tank, our tank's not going to expand. It's going to be able to release the pressure. And that pressure tube goes all the way down into this corner of our van where it's attached to a strainer so no dirt can get into the tube. And that is our base water system setup. I am just so happy that our plumbing is partially done, and I am really hoping that it all works out when we test it. But yeah, it's done. Woo! High five, James.
So far we've put about like 5 to 6 gallons of water in our tank, and we switched it around. I drove it around the block real quick, and we have no leaks on our supply and our drain side. So what I'm going to do right now is do one final flush on the drain side. I'm going to rinse all the water out, and then we're going to refill it again and check out all of our pump system.
Time to fuse our water pump so we can test our water system. Ready. Okay.
Alright.
Alrighty. It's going. It's water. I think going through. Oh, do we have this off?
I can't tell.
There's no water coming. We have no water leaving the tank. Oh, I see water now. I see water. I see water now. Oh! Is it coming out?
Not
No, it's
yet.
going through the filtration.
It's leaking right here.
Oh no, we have a leak. Turn it off, turn it off. Okay, we have a leak. We have a leak. Okay. Need a rack. Leak is coming from the accumulator. But so far, all of the PEX piping, all of those connection points are good. First test was not a success. So we actually have a leak coming from our accumulator from the connection points where the PEX tubing meets the accumulator and where the silencer goes into the accumulator. All of the other PEX pipes are good. No leaks there. So we think we just might not have turned this enough to secure it, but we're not really sure. We're going to have to take it apart and figure out where we have gone wrong. Okay, I need the drill. Where is it? We are pretty sure we know why it was leaking from the accumulator, because we didn't put these washers into the ends. When I read the instructions, it made it seem like you don't need it for specific types of connection points, so we didn't put them in there thinking it'd be good, but it's not. We need these. Luckily, we don't throw anything away, and we label all of this stuff. So we found it. But we're going to put it back in and see if it solves our problem. I'm pretty sure it will.
Add some plumber's tape for extra sealing power. What we have to do.
Test number 2. Water coming out of this one, no water coming out of here. We're just getting water. That's awesome. No leaks this time. That was such an easy fix. I'm so glad that there is no leaks in the PEX tubing. High fives.
After our celebration and draining the rest of the water in our water tank, we have realized that there is a small leak still in our accumulator on the PEX side. So what we need to do is we need to get another one of these 2 mil adapters and switch this to a female adapter, because we can't get the tightness we need at this angle, which sounds kind of weird, but with just like a rigid corner, I have to twist it, and it just doesn't get the tightness that it needs. So we're going to switch up the connection points, and hopefully that should fix our problem.
James went to the store and got some different pieces and made a little bit of a puzzle piece to kind of get this new part that we fixed for the plumbing. So he bought this twist adapter, which is similar to this one, however it's male to female. So then he had to cut this PEX tubing, make it longer, put an L, do another L up into our water system. That should be good now, and we are pretty much done with our plumbing besides our gray water and setting up our sink, which we're going to be doing later on because we want to do it when we install our cabinets. Or not our cabinets, our countertops. So make sure to follow along so you can see our entire fan build and find that episode. We now have a base set up for our plumbing system. We have all of the components put together, ready to be put to use, but we can't really do that until we have our sink.
Plumbing was a big learning curve for us, learning all the components that we needed and all the piping that was necessary, but we have got it done. We are super excited to have this project done and are ready to move on to the next project.
If you enjoyed watching this video and thought it was helpful, please give it a like and subscribe to our channel, and we will see you in the next fan build episode.
See ya.